Most ambitious movies start breaking the second you ask them to do too much. Sinners has to work as a horror movie, a period piece, a music movie, a crowd movie, and a character movie all at once. And the strange part is, it almost never drops any of them. That's why the reaction to this movie got so big. That's why 16 Oscar nominations stopped sounding exaggerated the more people sat with it. Because Sinners is not just good, it's carrying a ridiculous amount of weight without splitting apart. And you can see the whole movie in one image. Inside the juke joint, Sammy's music has the room feeling alive already. Warm, crowded, electric. Outside, Remick is standing at the door smiling, asking to be let in like he's offering a deal instead of a threat. That's Sinners in one moment. Joy and danger, seduction and survival, performance and invasion. But that scene only matters if the rest of the movie can actually carry the same pressure. Because one great scene is not enough. A lot of ambitious movies can give you one loaded moment. The harder part is making that moment feel earned. Then keeping the whole movie from slipping once it has to start paying things off. And that's where Sinners gets impressive. What the movie is trying to do is actually pretty risky. It wants the juke joint to feel alive before it turns into a trap. So the setup has real work to do. Smoke and Stack are not just opening a business. They are building a space people want to be in. They buy the meal, pull people in one by one, and give the room sound, rhythm, and personality. Sammy gives it a pulse, Annie gives it grounding, Delta Slim makes it feel worn in and lived in. That matters because if the place only feels like a set, then the danger is just functional. Sinners wants more than plot tension. It wants emotional value. It wants you to feel what this place means before it asks you to watch that meaning get threatened. Also, that's why Sammy matters so much. He's not just there to perform. He helps define what the movie feels like when it's fully alive. Once he starts playing and the film let that performance open outward into something bigger than the room, the intention becomes very clear. Sinners is not just showing you what can invade this space, it's showing you what kind of space is worth invading in the first place. And that gives the movie a huge advantage later, because once the danger fully arrives, the movie is not starting from zero. The place already matters, the people already matters. That's also why the structure is so smart. The movie starts with the twins putting the juke joint together. So by the time Remick gets to that door, the story doesn't have to beg you to care. And once he does get there, the movie tightens without feeling like it turns into a different kind of story. It doesn't throw away the first half, it cashes it in. Now every decision matters more. Who gets let in, who steps outside, who reads the danger correctly, who waits 1 second too long. The first half builds value, the second half turns that value into pressure. And that's where a movie like this usually falls apart. A great setup doesn't guarantee a great second half. Sometimes it actually makes the second half harder, because now the movie has more to protect and more to live up to. That's the point where Sinners really has to earn it. Once Mary gets turned, Stack comes back wrong, Annie starts laying out the rules, and people inside have to make decisions fast. This is exactly the kind of section where the movie could have gone messy. Instead, it gets cleaner. You can feel that in how the movie keeps pushing one choice into the next problem. Smoke does the right thing and keeps them out. Mary still steps outside. Grace lets them in. After that, the whole night starts collapsing. Nothing feels random. The movie keeps giving the chaos a cause, so even when the room gets more unstable, the panic stays readable because each new problem grows out of the last decision. And that is much harder than it sounds. A lot of movies can create chaos, fewer movies can shape it, and Sinners does. But the harder part is not just the payoff, it's the trade-off that comes with it. Because I do think the movie gives up something in the second half. Once Annie starts explaining how to fight back, and once Remick becomes easier to read, the movie loses a little of that early unknown. At the start, part of what makes Remick work is that the danger feels slippery. You don't fully know what shape it's going to take. Later, the movie gives you more answers. That makes the story easier to track, but it also softens that earlier unease. By that point, the movie is running on momentum, panic, and consequence. Smoke becomes the person trying to hold the line. Stack becomes a distorted version of what the night is turning into. Sammy still carries the movie's soul. Annie becomes more important because she helps people respond instead of just react. So when losses happen, they land harder. And this is where the awards reaction really starts making sense. Because Sinners is not just working in one lane. It's landing as a horror movie, a character movie, a crowd movie, and a period piece at the same time. That alone is hard. What makes it more impressive is that the movie does not feel like it is asking for extra credit just for trying. You can feel how much it is carrying, but you usually don't feel it straining. That control is a huge part of why the movie feels so complete. Not perfect, but complete. A lot of good movies still leave one lane slightly underfed. Maybe the characters work, but the story loosens up. Maybe the ideas are strong, but the tension fades. Maybe the atmosphere is great, but the emotional cost stays thin. Sinners, on the other hand, feels unusually full. That does not mean every choice is flawless. I still think the movie becomes a little easier to read once it starts giving you more answers and once Remick becomes less slippery. But that is a small trade for what the movie is pulling off overall. The music matters, the setting matters, the horror rules matters, Smoke, Stack, Sammy, Annie, they all feel like they belong to the same movie, even though that movie is carrying a lot. And when the night finally turns, the tension works because the groundwork was already there. That, to me, is the difference between a movie that is ambitious and a movie that can actually deliver on its ambition. And once you see how much Sinners is doing without dropping control, 16 Oscar nominations stops sounding crazy. It sounds exactly like the kind of reaction this movie was built to get. If you enjoyed this breakdown, drop a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what part of Sinners worked best for you. The music, the setup, the characters, or the way the whole night falls apart. And I'll see you in the next video.